Hey everyone, my guest today is KECIA Lewis. KECIA is currently starring on Broadway in the Alicia Keys musical Hell's Kitchen, for which she has been nominated a Tony Award. KECIA's Broadway journey began with her debut at 18 years old in the original company of Dreamgirls. Some of her other Broadway credits include Once on This Island, The Drowsy Chaperone, Leap of Faith, The Gospel at Colonus, Big River, Ain't Misbehavin', and Children of a Lesser God. On TV and film, KECIA has appeared in the Mad About You reboot, and Just Like That, With Love, The Passage, The Blacklist, Law and Order SVU, and Wu-Tang, An American Saga, and the film The Independent. As a vocalist, she has performed in Canada, Switzerland, Hong Kong, New Zealand, Russia, and many more places around the globe. Welcome, Tony nominee and extraordinary artist KECIA Lewis, to the podcast. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness. I got to see this magnificent show, and it's so special on so many levels.
Mhm.
But your portrayal of this character, Miss Liza Jane, feels like one is watching a documentary. It is so present, alive, nuanced, beautiful, and glaringly real and recognizable. We all wish we had a Miss Liza Jane in our lives, a mentor who sees us. And I would love it, before we talk about who were your Miss Liza Janes, because I'm sure there were some around your path to
Yes.
artistic fame and integrity. Can you talk a little bit about how this part came to you and what the building of it in this beautiful musical has been?
Yeah, so Michael Greif, who I had worked with in the mid 80s, he and I have stayed in contact. He's our director of Hell's Kitchen. And he and I stayed in contact. We did a couple of workshops together, but never a full show. So Michael reached out to me and said that I'm working on a show. I think there's a role for you. I'd love for you to read the script and join us for a reading. And I read it, I loved it, and I said, yes, I'm absolutely in. And after that was when I was told it was a project loosely based on Alicia Keys and that she was involved. And it was like, oh, okay. But what I read, I loved, and I especially loved Miss Liza Jane. Michael was very instrumental in helping me to figure out some of the backstory of Miss Liza Jane. We talked about that a lot because she's a bit of a mystery in the show. You don't know much about her at
Yeah.
all. You just know that she's a neighbor in the building where our main character, Allie, lives. And so in putting the character together, I utilized a few Miss Liza Janes that I've had in my life. And Mr. Liza Janes, I've had several mentors and teachers over the years. There's the ones in particular that I can count on one hand are the ones that I really utilized who they were, what they gave me, how I remember them in order to build this character.
And just for folks who haven't had the great fortune of seeing the show yet, so this is it's not a verbatim recreation of Alicia Keys' life, but it is very much based on her growing up in a building called Manhattan Plaza in New York City, which houses many artists who are working artists who share that building and share some common spaces in that building. One
Right.
of the common spaces is called the Ellington Room, where in this play, the Alicia Keys character, played by Malia Joy Moon, who is such a beautiful young artist,
Mhm.
bumps into you, and her life is changed forever in the show. Can you talk a little bit, about when, you just said, and then you realized this thing he sent you was about Alicia Keys, written by Alicia Keys, um, to be presented in the world alongside of her. Tell me, when Alicia came into the room with you guys, what was that like? What was her input? Because you discussed Michael helping you with the character, but I'm sure you got to talk with her a fair amount as well.
Yes, yes. Actually, my first meeting with her was via Zoom when we weren't quite back in rooms working yet. I believe it was 2021. And she was she was studying, kind of looking and watching to see what these actors brought to the table that Michael had assembled. And the project had been in development it's been in development for 13 years before we got here. And so there have been many iterations, other actors, but there are a couple of actors who have been with it almost from the beginning. I think one has been with it from the beginning, and then one maybe a year or two later. And so when I met her face to face in the rehearsal room, she's warm and lovely, and we were all super excited to meet her and work with her. And my first session with her, she would do vocal sessions with us individually, as well as a group with group numbers. So my first individual session with her, she talked about her heart space that she was in when she wrote the songs that I sing in the show, and what was going on with her, what was going on in her life, and what it was that she wanted to convey musically. And so in talking about that, I was able to share with her what was going on in my life during that time, what my experiences had been, and we were able to kind of marry together what her intention was as well as what my experiences were. And she has been very collaborative, where she doesn't really have to be. You know, she's a proven brand, she's a proven celebrity and superstar and genius, musical genius. And so I was very surprised at how she wanted to listen to my interpretation of the song, listen to how I felt about different lyrics and how it related to this character. And so she herself has said that she did not imagine when she was writing these songs that are all in the show that they would be used in this way, but she realizes now that that was a part of the plan, you know, for her. And so everything kind of moves together in a really beautiful, very natural way without it feeling forced in any way. So it's been wonderful working with her. She's been wonderful.
And I'm sure it's vulnerable, no matter where you are, when you enter a new space that isn't, she's well known in the music world. She wasn't working in the Broadway space before.
Right,
And the idea of her, and she had no need to, right? Like this
right,
woman really didn't need to enter
right,
a new room. She's good, right?
right, right.
But she and her husband, this art collection that they shared recently in Brooklyn, I mean, they really take their work and are so generous with it in that way,
Yes,
in bringing it into other rooms where many more people get to share it in that
yes,
way.
yes.
Um, in the story, Shoshana Bean, who's also been on this podcast, who I love so much, plays the role of Alicia's mother.
Mhm,
There's so much sort of biographical story that's being told, but
mhm,
so much of this play, even though our narrator is young Alicia, is really also seen through the eyes of mothers, the mothers of this show. And it's painful and beautiful and inspirational and very real. And your character who sings this incredible song, The Perfect Way to Die, it's really one of those songs that people need a moment, right? They need a moment to collect themselves. And Michael's so beautiful at weaving comedy into
yeah,
his shows to give people space to just collect themselves and
yeah,
so that they can listen and pay attention to the rest of the show. What is
right.
it like having a song that brings everyone on stage and in the house to their knees? What is the feeling of that?
The feeling of that is kind of indescribable. You know, it's certainly not anything that we were aiming for. We just wanted to tell the truth of the song and utilize the artistry that both Alicia and myself have put into this version of the song. And so when it happens, I can feel it from the beginning of the song when people are very leaned in and tuned in to the lyrics. And in my portrayal, I'm thinking of the people that the song is about. I'm thinking of my own son. I'm thinking of what has gone on in this country. I'm thinking of all of that, and I'm seeing it in front of my eyes so that I can convey the song truthfully. And I was taught that if I believe it as an actor, you'll believe it as an
Right,
audience member. So
right.
I've been making sure that I believe it so that you believe it. And when
8
I,
shows a week.
yeah, yeah, when
It's
I hear
hard.
the response, sometimes during the show, you can hear a pin drop when the song is happening. I can hear the sniffles in between when there's quiet moments in the song. I can hear the stunned silence in those moments. And it's a privilege to be able to be a part of that kind of a moment in people's lives.
And just, what's that expression, bury the lead. So Miss Liza Jane in the show is a piano teacher. And
Mhm.
so she is sort of, as represented in this play, the person who teaches Alicia Keys how to play piano. And from that, we all know history is made in terms
Right,
of her real life.
right.
Um, what was your relationship to the piano? What is your relationship, your early relationship to music and singing and the accompaniment of a piano?
Yeah, I always wanted to play piano. Uh but I knew that my singing gift was probably stronger than piano might be. And so I leaned into that a bit more. The first person to kind of recognize that I could sing was my dad. He's passed on now. And he was a singer himself. He tried to launch a career in the music industry in the 50s, and things didn't quite work out for him. So once he recognized that he had a kid who had a musical talent. He just nurtured that as much as he possibly could. And so my relationship to music, honestly, has always been one of a go to. It's always been I grew up as an only child, and so I spent a lot of time sitting in front of the stereo in my living room, listening to musicals, listening to some of the music that my parents listened to, finding my own sounds that I love. And during those times of just being with music, what it did was it helped me to discover the power that music has, and particularly the power that music has when people believe what they're singing. When they're singing just because they have a great voice and there's some good music, you can hear the difference in that. Versus when someone believes what they're singing, they're invested in that music and that gets conveyed across. I'm always moved by that. And what I've always wanted to do as an artist is to be able to move people, to get them to a place where their hearts are open just a little bit wider so that they can receive whatever it is, whatever the message is that I'm here to convey. So music has been very powerful for me in that way.
I've really been moved by how many grown-ups have been nominated this year for awards in your category and other categories from musicals and plays. It's sort of thrilling to see a business that is celebrating people who have been doing it for a long time,
Right.
and women in particular who have been doing it and have so many gifts to share and so much wisdom to share with others. I want to just go back because we talked a little bit before we started recording that we both have a mutual friend that you were in high school with.
Yes.
You went to the High School of the Performing Arts. Now it's called LaGuardia.
Mhm.
The movie fame and the TV show fame, which really inspired so many people who did not live in New York City to want to come here and live their dream, as Debbie Allen scared them out of what it might look
Right.
like if you did it. Tell me about your time at that school, um, and how that did or didn't give you the courage to pursue it professionally.
I often say to people that when I entered that school, I didn't know. I mean, you have to audition to get in, and I actually auditioned twice. I auditioned to go in for as a freshman, and I did not get in. And fortunately, the junior high school that I went to went up to the ninth grade. So I worked really hard and auditioned again so that I could enter in the 10th grade, and I got in. And when I came into that school, I didn't quite know what to expect. I just knew that I loved to act. I thought it was fun. I thought it was cool. And again, I love the idea of opening people up a little bit with what I would say or do that would cause their hearts to open a bit more. And so going into the school, though, was the first time that I experienced a lot of people my age who we all wanted the same thing. That was extremely powerful. I often have said to my son that it's about finding your tribe, and most people do not find their tribe that young, but I found mine at 14. And once I knew, oh, I'm like these people. Oh, I feel similarly to these people. Oh, we all want the same thing. We all want to contribute in this way. We all have gifts and talents, and everybody is wanting to express themselves freely and give everything that they have to give. And as a teenager, especially a New York City teenager, that wasn't cool. That was not something that you found teenagers doing on the block or in the building. You know what I mean? So to find kids like that,
Yeah.
see them every single day, it shaped me. It completely shaped me and gave me the courage to just keep going and growing and going and growing and keep sharing what I have. So
And you
that's,
have been for decades now committed to that,
mhm,
right? Committed
yeah,
to your tribe and committed to telling stories with integrity and also a tremendous sense of fun that
yeah,
comes through too, right? Like doing
yeah,
this beautiful work, but also not taking yourself too seriously, but
right.
being in service of something. And that's what's so powerful. And that's what's so exciting. There's this thing that happens. I read a thumbnail sketch of your credits. I mean, you've been at this for a long time. And yet, the idea that at this point in your career, all of that work, all of the time, it probably felt like Sisyphus, right? We're pushing
Yeah,
up the rock and then we're back to one, back to one.
right.
Um, it isn't back to one. It's all collecting and vibrating inside you. And so, what makes this moment so thrilling for those of us who have the honor of watching it and cheering it is when the magic happens of part and artist, it's sort of this undeniable force. This might seem like such a silly question to ask, but did you feel that? Were you like, whoa? Because I saw it first at the public, like in its infant stage,
Mhm.
and now it's even grown more and changed and all of that. But like, was there sort of an electricity within you that you're like, wait, this is special?
Yes, absolutely. I have had in another week and a half, it'll be 40 years that I've been in this business. I
Wow.
started in 1984, and there's been 3 times that I can recall where I've worked on a show where what you just described has been what's happened to me. That artist met role at the right time, in the right place, working with the right folks, and something inside of me woke up in a new kind of a way, and also gave me a desire to give 200%. Like I'm old school, right? So we don't miss shows unless,
Mhm.
eyeballs are falling out. That's usually what I say.
So if you're ever out, it's because your eyeball fell
My
out.
eyeballs are burning and I can't see. That is the only reason
Okay.
that, but yeah, when you come from this kind of old school sensibility, um, you do the work, you enjoy the work, it's a day by day process, things shift all the time. But when you're doing a piece or you're playing a role where it's so connected to who you are and where you are, something shifts on the inside of you. And I think that the growth process during performing the show becomes heightened in a different kind of a way. It becomes more precious because you don't get this every role, you don't get this every job. And so you just want to serve that and be present to that and receive what people give back to you because it's tennis. Performing is like tennis. I hit the ball to you, you hit the ball back to me. I hit it to you, you hit it to me, and off we go. So it's been really wonderful to have that experience with this show.
Can I just ask you, I mean, to your point, this is 40 years ago, but to begin your career in the original company of Dreamgirls, there are Dreamgirls, the chorus line. There are just some iconic, they do not go away as
Right.
titles that every young person coming into the world of musical theater, at least, is not obsessed with.
Yeah.
So, can you just take us back to a minute? You just get out of high school, or were you still in high school when you joined that company?
I was out of high school. I graduated when I was 16. I had skipped a grade when I was
Okay.
younger. And so I was a young graduate. So I was in college. I was going to NYU when I started auditioning though for the show right out of high school. So
Okay.
it was about 2 years of auditioning. I had no agent. I would just read the show business paper every time it said Dreamgirls. I went to open calls. Anytime it said they were looking for this character, I just kept going, kept going until finally one day the casting director called me and said, Michael Bennett needs to find somebody to cover the role of Effie and to play the role eventually. And he only wants to see two people, and I'm bringing you in and one other lady. And it was surreal. It was absolutely surreal. And at the end of the audition, I think she went in first, then I went in. And for my audition, they had me sing two songs. And then Michael Bennett asked me to do a step touch. And I often tell this story, which is very funny. I was so kind of out of my body that I didn't know what he meant. He kept saying, "Can you step touch for me?" And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what it is you're asking, but I'm happy to do it." He said, "Just step touch, sweetie, just step touch." And I was like, "I don't know." He gets up from behind the table, holds my hand and goes, "Step touch, step touch." That was my dance audition. I did that. And then he said, "Okay, now sway your hips when you do it. Now move your arms when you do it." And that's basically kind of the Dream Girls way of moving. And so at the end of the audition, casting director tells us both to stay put. And he comes back out and he says, "They've made a decision. I can either give you ladies a call later or I can let you know now." The other lady said later. I said now at the same time. And he said, "Well, I'm going to go with the person who got the job. KECIA, it's your job. And can you please go to the Imperial Theater by 5 o'clock this evening and go to wardrobe?" It was just like, what
Oh,
just
oh my God.
Yeah, so it was very surreal. The whole experience of it was extremely surreal. And I'm so grateful also that I met one of my Miss Liza Janes, which is a Mr. Liza Jane, which is Ben Harney, who won the Tony for that show for Best Actor in a Musical. And
Right.
he became a mentor of mine. And still to this day, I call Ben for counsel and advice. I talked to him maybe two weeks ago, maybe. So it was very, very special. Yeah.
Has he been able to see you in the show?
Yes, I invited him when we were down at the Public, and I made sure that I gave him a huge bouquet of flowers and wanted him to know that he was one of my Miss Liza Janes and how appreciative I was of that. And I introduced him to a lot of the cast, especially the young cast. I told a lot of them, "My Miss Liza Jane is here. One of them is here, and I'd love you to meet." So it was
Wow.
really, really lovely. And I'm going to get him to the Broadway company somehow. He's been a little busy. I've been crazy busy. So we're
Yeah.
going to figure it out probably this summer.
Did your dad live to see you perform in the ways that you've been performing on Broadway and TV and, past high school?
Unfortunately, my dad passed away in 2006, so he saw the beginning of it. He did not
Mm-hmm.
see all of where it went, but uh, I laugh about my dad was a motorcycle guy. He loved Harleys and he rode Harleys, and he would come on his Harley to everything. He brought his friends. I remember one show I did. This one show I did, my dad was a part of a motorcycle club, and it was a bunch of middle-aged old Black guys on Harleys, and they all came to see me do a show. Like, you heard the roar coming up the street, and it was like, "Oh
Right.
God, that's my
Dad's here.
father.
That's
Oh my God." He's
I
like,
love
"My
that.
daughter, she's great. She's gonna be doing big things and blah blah blah." So he was a great, great supporter. He traveled to see me perform, before he passed away. So
That's beautiful. Well, that is his daughter, and I can only imagine. his pride right now in your journey. Before I let you go, I have two questions. One, growing up in and around, did you grow up out in Manhattan or did you grow up in another borough?
I grew up in Queens.
In Queens. Okay.
In Queens,
So
yeah.
so in going to school in Manhattan, right by Manhattan Plaza, which is the building that this whole story takes place in and around, were
Yeah.
you ever in Manhattan Plaza as a kid?
Absolutely. Our mutual
Okay.
friend that I went to high school with, she lived in Manhattan Plaza. So my first time going there was to spend the night at her house, spend the night at my friend's house in the same building that Alicia grew up in. And so I have experience with Manhattan Plaza going way, way back. And I actually, that same friend, her father unfortunately also passed away, and his memorial was in the Ellington room. And she asked me to sing for that memorial. So
Wow.
I have a deep connection to that building.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I don't think she'd mind us mentioning her. She's been on this podcast too, and we all love her. Erica Gimple, just one of the most beautiful, beautiful humans,
Yes,
and inspirations walking the earth today.
yes,
So here's
absolutely.
to Erica. So
It's
before I
Eric.
let you go, is there a little known fact about yourself? You've been already so generous with your stories. Is there anything you can think of to share with my listeners?
A little known fact is that my parents grew up in a small town in Alabama called Dixon's Mills, Alabama. And both of them at separate times came to New York City and found each other again in the Bronx. And that's where I was born, in the Bronx. And what's very special to me about that, and a little known fact about that, is that that little community in the Bronx was kind of also an artistic community. There were people in there that sang and who danced a little bit and did a little visual art. And so all of that, I think, was an imprint on my life, as well as my parents' DNA, of course, and their desire to see me move forward as an artist. Yeah.
Well, you have already won so many awards for this role and other roles. And obviously, this is just sort of a fun cherry on top of what's been just such a beautiful career and just such beautiful work. Um, I am so honored that during this very busy time, because I know how crazy pre-Tony life is, and you're
Yes.
doing the show.
Yes.
I'm just so grateful to you. Thank you for this beautiful performance and a lifetime of gorgeous work. Here's to the next things, and thank you for being on the show today. It was wonderful to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was wonderful to be with you.
Awesome. All right, I will talk to you soon.
All
Have a
righty.
beautiful day.
Thank
Bye.
you. You as well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.